While I'm putting my boots on, let me just tell you about today's walk. We're here in the Borrowdale Valley, but it's not the Borrowdale Valley near Keswick, it's the Borrowdale Valley near the M6 at Tebay. And this walk includes 5 tops which Wainwright featured in his Howgill's Fells and Adjoining Fells book. And I've never been here before, but we've just pulled off the main Tebay to Kendal Road, which runs adjacent to the M6, and we've pulled into this nice little car park at the start of the walk near Borrowdale Beck. And what we're going to do is we're going to walk up the valley first. We're going to pass the 2 farmsteads, one's occupied, one's not, at High and Low Borrowdale, and we'll get almost to Huck's Bridge, which is on the A6. We'll then turn left heading south, and we'll go up onto Ashstead Fell, we'll cross Mabbin Crag, we'll go to Castle Fell, to Whinfell Beacon, and then to Grayrigg. From there we'll come back down and we'll end up here at this car park. It's not a walk that I've done before, even though I've passed here many times on the way down to the Lake District. So it's a new exploration, and it will also cover 5 of the tops in my new project, the Lakeland 365. Now these fells by Wainwright were classed in his Howgill Fells book, but they were classed as adjoining fells. Because they're on the west side of the M6 as it is now, they are now in the Lake District National Park. They weren't in his day. And that's why I've included them in the Lakeland 365 list. So let's move on. There's plenty of room in the car park, and you're unlikely to find it busy. So once parked up, we headed through the gate and up along the track. We passed through some delightful woodland, through some nice wildflower pastures, and then enjoy the cool waters of Borrow Beck. Just while I'm sitting here having 5 minutes, taking in the view, enjoying the sun and having a drink of water, I'll just explain my reasoning behind my planning for doing the route this way. When we parked down at the bottom end of Borrowdale, I knew that the first part of the valley had a really good road up to the farms, this one here being Low Borrowdale Farm, which is just in the trees here. And I thought if we carried on up this path, keeping the beck close by, we'd be walking upstream against the beck. And I always think that walking upstream on a river means that you get better potential photographs and sketches and filming and stuff. And it also means I've been able to enjoy a comfortable walk to the far end of the valley on a fairly decent road. It also means that when we get to Uxbridge, we're about halfway there now, I'll be able to turn up left and get onto the ridge itself and enjoy the late light of the evening. If we did it the other way around, we've been on the top in this hot afternoon sun, up and down, quite hard work, using up a lot of energy, and then maybe when the light's better, we would have been stuck in the valley and wouldn't be able to see as much. By doing it this way round, which is sort of anti-clockwise, hopefully when we're on the ridge, the sun will have gone down quite a bit and the light will be better for photographs and sketching and filming. So we'll get the benefit of the time of day doing this walk. Now, in Wainwright's Whinfell Fells book, in which these 5 tops are in, he actually splits this ridge up into 3 separate walks. So you get the western end first, central section, and then the eastern section. And the route that I've planned today combines them all in one, so we can go over the 5 tops. As you can tell, I'm in no hurry. We've been out about an hour now, and beautiful afternoon. And this is another good reason for coming and visiting the Borrowdale Valley in late June. I had read somewhere that they had some good wildflower meadows here. Now, they're not as good as Swaledale or Hannah's Meadow up with us in Teesdale, but this is the first one I've come to as we've come along the valley, and it's just a mass of buttercups. Beautiful. This is the neat farmstead of Low Borrowdale. Our route takes us through the farmyard and where we turn left and continue along the nice woodland track. We've left Low Borrowdale Farm back there. You can see it where the buttercup meadows are. And now we've picked up a track which will lead us up to High Borrowdale Farm. As you can see, we're a little bit higher than the river now and walking along what's really quite a nice grassy trod. Probably the old track between the 2 farms when they were both occupied. The next farm is deserted. And this is what's left of High Borrowdale Farm. The farmhouse over there, which is, I was going to say almost in complete disrepair, but it's been sort of stabilised. And it's got an iron gate on the doorway, locked. And then the 2 barns have obviously been repaired to a certain standard. They've got doors with locks on. And this will be the front garth of the farm. And then the barns would have extended all the way over there. You can just about see those walls there. I believe it's owned now by Friends of the Lake District. What they do with it or how they use it, I have no idea. It's a real joy to see hay meadows like these. Since the 1930s, we've lost about 97% of all of this type of habitat in the UK, mostly down to the change of farming practices from hay production towards silage. They're really lovely to see and great for small insects and wildlife. Now at this point we've got 2 options. There's a bridge going across the river and there are 2 old footpath signs. One would say go over the bridge and the other would say keep to the right and keep to the right hand side of the river. But we're going to go across the bridge and follow the river upstream on the left bank up there to Uxbridge. There's not been much rain recently, so Borrow Beck is really looking quite dry. Easy to get across for the sheep. Well, we're nearly up at Huck's Bridge, and we've spent the last, I don't know, 20 minutes or so walking along this really good track from that small bridge, with Borrowdale Beck down here on our right. And it is a good track here, very little used. You can see in the dried mud patches that there's maybe the odd footprint and the odd mountain bike track, but no, I don't suppose that many people come along here. So a few more minutes and we'll be up at the end of the valley. Well, the end of the valley before it hits the A6, and then we turn up to Ashstead Fell. We've now climbed out of Borrowdale, just short of Huck's Bridge, and we've come up the tarmac track which just joins the A6 here. You'll probably hear some traffic as we're standing very close, 10 yards from the road itself. And a lot of people do this ridge by parking in a lay-by just down the road here. But of course we've come up Borrowdale, and now we're going up to Ashstead Fell. It's a short, steep ascent, and even though it's getting on to evening time, it's after 5 o'clock, it's still very warm, and I'm not going to be pushing myself too hard. I've just cut up there at a good steady pace. It's a path which is quite easy to follow, but as I say, it's steep in places. Still a beautiful evening, and another 4 or 5 hours of sunlight yet, so we've got plenty of time. And this is the first summit of Ashstead Fell, the first one that you come to if you're walking up from the A6. Now, there are 3 distinct tops on Ashstead Fell. The other 2 are further to the east, and you can just see them through the trees here. And they both are distinctly higher than this. But Wainwright, in his book on the Howgill Fells, marked this as the summit of Ashstead Fell, and he does so by making a solid black triangle at this point where this cairn stands. Now, he obviously knew that those 2 were higher, but Wainwright being Wainwright, I reckon he classed this one as the summit because it has this fine feature on it. It's a very old cairn. It stands, in fact it's narrower at the base than it is further up, and it stands here almost exactly the same way as it did when he wrote the book. If you lifted this cairn and put it somewhere in the central Lake District, it would have been toppled long before now, and it would just be a pile of stones. So thankfully, it remains as it is. Now it's time to move on. We're going to follow the fairly distinct path along the ridge. And the first thing we'll do, we'll stop at, or we'll call by the other 2 summits of Ashstead Fell before going on to Mabbin Crag. The sun's just gone behind a cloud a bit, so it's cooled down quite a bit. And there's a little bit of a breeze here on the ridge, but it's still a cracking evening walk. Here we are on the second top of Ashstead Fell. As you can see, where we just come from, the cairn down there is much lower, and when you get to this top there's a couple of other high points, so it's hard to tell which is the very top, but there's no cairn on this point. There might be one over there, I'll have a look. And then the third top, which is the highest top of Ashstead Fell, if you're going at it topographically, is that one there, and we'll be heading there shortly. So we'll have a look over here to see if there's a cairn, and then we'll head up to there. And from here you can actually see where we're heading to after that, which is Mabbin Crag, which is up through that fire break in the trees, and then to the top where you can see another cairn on the grass in between the trees there. Further on you can see Whinfell Beacon, and that's where we'll be heading one bit after that. It's a beautiful evening to be out on the hills and to take in the scenery. This part of the route is nearly all easy upland walking, and there's only this small outcrop of rock which we have to negotiate to carry on our journey. Here we are at Mabbin Crag, another nice cairn, very similar to the one on Ashstead Fell. May even be built by the same person. Ashstead Fell's now over there, a bit lower, and because we've gained a bit of height we can now see Great Gable, Score Fells, Coniston Fells, Ilbell, Froswick, High Street. Fantastic view from here. And then down this way we've got Kendal, and down towards Morecambe Bay. And then in that direction where we're heading next, Castle Fell and Whinfell Beacon, and the way over there to Grayrigg Common. So that's to come. And then as we're heading into the woodland you come across this very simple bothy type of a shed. To be honest, I didn't go too far in. It was full of rubbish and it didn't look very inviting. So we moved on through the dark woodland, on the path, and then out into the open moorland again.
We got nowhere to be, just a slow dance with the summer heat. outside can't wait a few, 'cause right now we got nothing else to do. The sun is peeking through the cotton white blinds, your hands still tangled up in mine. Feet on the wall, your head on me, floating easy. We got nowhere to be.
As you're heading up alongside the wall, you can see the path goes straight up. But we want to head over to the left towards Ashstead Fell. And just here where we are, you can see a faint path that goes off to the left. And that's the one you need to take. There won't be any problem if you carry straight on up to the rise, because you just have to turn left there. But this is a little bit of a shortcut that will take us directly to the summit.
Coffee is cold, but we take a sip, talk about nothing. Let the morning slip. Oh, it feels like that, like summer air through window cracks. Oh, it feels like that, like summer sun on quiet tracks. Oh, it feels like that, like the summer rain that falls so slowly on the naked skin upon your back. Oh, it feels like that, like a love song.
And just as we get to the top, the sun comes out. Brilliant. The top of Ashstead Fell is like, it's got a split in it. There's a gap here which is not unlike Trusmadore up in the Northern Fells, but a smaller version. So you walk along that and then come up along this ridge, and all of a sudden you come to the cairn. Beautiful, especially now with the weather like this. And the bonus, just as we got to the top of the gap, there was a fox sneaking away. He didn't see us, but he just sneaked away down into the valley. Fantastic. From here, we get a good view of our route ahead. Further along the ridge, you can see Whinfell Beacon. It's a simple walk. We go down to the wall, keep it on our right, and carry on along the good track.
We got nowhere to be, just a slow dance with the summer heat. The world outside can't wait a few, 'cause right now we got nothing else to do. The sun is peeking through the cotton white blinds, your hands still tangled up in mine. Feet on the wall, your head on me, floating easy. We got nowhere to be.
Let's hope it doesn't fall to bits, Bailey.
Got nowhere to be. Your hair's a mess, but you don't mind. You just laugh, let it fall where it lies. Coffee's cold, but we take a sip, talk about nothing. Let the morning slip.
Oh, how that's worked, I don't know. Anyway.
Like summer air through window cracks.
So, onwards and upwards to Whinfell Beacon.
Feels like that, like summer sun on quiet tracks. Oh, it feels like that, like the summer rain that falls so slowly on the naked skin upon your back. Oh, it feels like that, like a love song on a worn out track. Yeah, it feels like that. like that. Yeah, it feels like that. Na 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 na. Feels like that. Oh, it feels like that. Like summer air through window cracks. Oh, it feels like that. Like the summer sun on quiet tracks. Oh, it feels like that. Like the summer rain that falls so slowly on the naked skin upon your back. Oh, it feels like that. Like a love song on a worn out track. Yeah, it feels like that. Feels like that. Yeah, it feels like that. Na 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 na. Feels like that.
Well, someone's done a really impressive job of rebuilding this cairn. There were two in Wainwright's day, two cairns here, but one fell down and the stones have been reshaped into a bit of a wind shelter, and now someone has rebuilt the single cairn into a really good squarish job. Nice work. Well, I'm going to change my plan, and as the sun is almost set now, I can't see much point in going on to Grayrigg Common. So what I'm going to do is leave that for another day. I'll grab something to eat here and something to drink, and then we'll head back down into Borrowdale past the radio station, the transmitter station, and get back to the car. These fells are not quite on my doorstep, but only 40 minutes from home, so I can come up here at any time, and this is the first visit, so I know what to expect next time. Well worth a revisit. Time for something to eat. So here we are, we're back in the van. I've just had my tea, needed a drink because it was very warm out there, and yeah, the light faded quite quickly on Whinfell Beacon once the sun had set, so I decided, as I said before, to cut the whole trip short and come back to the van without doing Grayrigg Common. So that's what I did. We've got some nice photographs on the way back down, but unfortunately the GoPro isn't suitable for very low light. It, just doesn't film very well, and so I had to cut the film short and didn't show you much of the film on the descent from the radio station. But I'll go back at the other on another day and do Grayrigg Common and Little Coombe. But It was a great afternoon. Been a great day. I've had some good sketching, good photographs, and hopefully the film's been good and you've enjoyed it. And if you have, click the like button and then subscribe to my channel. Thanks for watching.